The morning was crisp and unusually serene at the Kennedy Space Center, where a small crowd of military personnel, scientists, and a few suited government officials stood waiting. The sky above was a perfect backdrop for the historic moment. A gleaming silver spacecraft, sleek and silent, descending smoothly towards the landing pad. Jake stood among the group, his hands stuffed in the pockets of his windbreaker. He was a seasoned wilderness guide, more accustomed to the unpredictable terrains of Earth than the polished concrete of a spaceport. His job today was to ensure the safety of the alien delegation from the Galactic Academy of Science, a role he found both exhilarating and intimidating. As the spacecraft touched down with a hiss and a gentle thud, Dr. Alan Richter, the head of the Human-Alien Relations Committee, nudged Jake. "Ready to meet our guests, Jake? Remember, they're here to learn about Earth, and you're our front line in making sure they understand just how varied and dangerous our planet can be." Jake nodded, his gaze fixed on the opening hatch. "Got it, Dr. Richter. I'll make sure they get the full tour." The hatch slid open, and a ramp descended. Threxel, the alien professor, was the first to emerge, flanked by 3 students, each with their own distinct traits and colors shimmering on their skins, a tapestry of the galactic diversity. They hesitated at the base of the ramp, taking in their surroundings and the group of humans waiting for them. "Welcome to Earth," Dr. Richter began, stepping forward with a warm smile. "I am Dr. Alan Richter, and we are honored to host you." Threxel responded with a nod, his voice a smooth, flowing ripple. "Thank you, Dr. Richter. We are eager to learn about your world. This is Zorath, Cilia, and Fenril." He gestured to each student in turn. Jake stepped up, extending a hand, a gesture he suddenly hoped was appropriate. "I'm Jake. I'll be your guide. Any questions before we head out?" Zorath, the taller one with a faintly luminescent blue skin, tilted his head. "Is it true that Earth environments are more hazardous than those on most inhabited planets?" Jake chuckled. "You could say that. You'll see soon enough. Each place we visit has its own challenges. Ready for a bit of adventure?" Cilia, with her shimmering silver scales, looked apprehensive. "We have studied various survival theories, but practical exposure is quite limited in our curriculum." "And that's exactly why you're here," Jake replied, motioning them to follow him towards the convoy of vehicles ready to take them to their first destination. Earth isn't just forests and oceans. It's deserts, mountains, jungles, and even urban landscapes. Each has its own beauty and its own dangers. As they walked, Fenril, who sported vibrant green skin, seemed curious. "What will be our first encounter?" "The Everglades," Jake said with a knowing smile. "A vast network of wetlands known for its rich biodiversity. And alligators." "Alligators?" Zorath echoed with a mixture of intrigue and concern. "Yeah, wait till you meet them. They're pretty much living dinosaurs," Jake explained. "But don't worry, you'll be safe with me. I've dealt with them more times than I can count." As the group settled into the vehicles, Dr. Richter leaned over to Jake. "Keep them safe. But let them see the real Earth, Jake. It's important they understand why we're known as a DeathWorld." Jake nodded firmly, starting the engine. "They'll get the full picture, don't worry." The convoy rolled out, leaving behind the high-tech spaceport for the wild and untamed parts of Earth. It was the beginning of what promised to be one of the most enlightening expeditions for the alien visitors, and an opportunity for Jake to showcase the planet he loved, in all its dangerous glory. The journey to the Florida Everglades was filled with anticipation and hushed conversations among the alien students. As the convoy left the concrete jungle behind, lush greenery began to dominate the landscape. The air grew thick with humidity, and Jake watched the students' reactions closely, their faces pressed against the vehicle windows, eyes wide with curiosity. "Welcome to the Everglades," Jake announced as they arrived at their destination, stepping out into the muggy air that enveloped the marshlands. "This is one of Earth's most unique ecosystems. You'll find birds, fish, mammals, and reptiles all thriving here, some you won't see anywhere else on the planet." Threxel stepped out, his sensory appendages twitching as they adjusted to the new environment. "It seems very alive," he observed, taking in the chorus of sounds around them. Jake grinned, leading them down a wooden boardwalk. "That's one way to put it. Keep your eyes peeled and stay close. The wildlife here isn't always as friendly as it seems." As they walked, Jake pointed out various plants and birds, explaining their roles in the ecosystem. The students were especially fascinated by the anhingas, birds adept at swimming underwater to catch fish. Suddenly Zorath stopped, pointing towards a dark shape in the water. "Is that one of the alligators you mentioned?" Jake approached cautiously, confirming the sighting. Good eye, Zorath. That's a young one, probably just over 5 feet long. They can grow much bigger. The group gathered around, observing the alligator from a safe distance. Fenrir, who had been taking copious notes, asked, "How do humans coexist with such creatures? Aren't they dangerous?" "They can be," Jake replied, watching the alligator slide silently through the water. "But attacks on humans are rare. We respect their space and they generally respect ours. It's all about balance and understanding." The lesson was interrupted by a sudden rustle in the bushes nearby, causing Celia to jump back. Jake motioned for calm as a large python slithered across the path. "That's an invasive species here, Burmese pythons. They're a big problem in the Everglades, upsetting the natural balance." "How do they affect the ecosystem?" Threxel inquired, intrigued by the disruption caused by a single species. "They prey on native wildlife and compete with top predators like alligators. Conservationists work hard to control their numbers and protect the native species," Jake explained. The group continued deeper into the park, coming across more wildlife and discussing the challenges of conservation. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the wetlands, when Jake decided it was time to head back. As they retraced their steps to the vehicles, an urgent chattering from the trees above halted them. A raccoon was perched precariously on a thin branch, seemingly agitated. Jake used the moment to teach another lesson. Raccoons are pretty adaptable. They're omnivores and very clever, but they can be a nuisance, especially in urban areas. "Seems like every species has its own way of adapting," Zorath noted, watching the raccoon scamper away. "Exactly," Jake confirmed as they reached the vehicles. "Life here finds a way to survive, sometimes against the odds. That's what makes Earth a death world to outsiders. But to us, it's just home." The ride back was quiet, the students absorbed in their thoughts, processing the day's lessons. Jake knew the first-hand experiences had made an impact, providing them a glimpse into the complexity and raw beauty of one Earth's wildest places. The next day, Jake arranged for the group to visit the Great Barrier Reef, known for its stunning coral formations and diverse marine life. The mood was light as they boarded a charter plane to Australia, the students buzzing with excitement over their upcoming dive into one of the planet's most beautiful underwater ecosystems. Upon arrival, they met with a marine biologist, Dr. Liam Webb, who would join them for the dive. The Great Barrier Reef is not only a natural wonder, but also a critical habitat that supports a myriad of marine species, Dr. Webb explained during the briefing. Today, you'll see why it's so important to protect these ecosystems. Outfitted in diving gear, the group boarded the boat that would take them to a popular dive spot. Jake noticed Celia's apprehension. "You okay?" he asked. "It's just, the ocean is much more vast and unpredictable than the environments we studied yesterday," she admitted. "Don't worry," Jake reassured her. "We're in good hands. Dr. Webb is one of the best, and I'll be right with you." Once anchored, they plunged into the clear blue water. The reef was vibrant with life. Corals of every imaginable color stretched out beneath them like an underwater city bustling with its aquatic citizens. Fish darted between their hiding spots, and sea turtles glided by with a serene grace. "This is incredible!" Fenrir exclaimed through his dive mask, his voice bubbling over the radio. As they explored further, Dr. Webb pointed out various coral species and discussed the impacts of climate change and pollution on their health. The lesson was vivid and impactful, surrounded by the very beauty they were learning to protect. Suddenly, a shadow loomed above them. Jake looked up to see a great white shark circling near the surface. His heart raced, not out of fear, but for the safety of the group. "Stay calm and stay close," he instructed, his voice steady over the radio. The students froze, their eyes wide behind their masks as they watched the majestic creature. The shark seemed curious but not aggressive, its powerful form cutting through the water with ease. "Why isn't it attacking?" Zorath whispered, his voice tense. "Great whites are curious by nature. They don't see humans as prey," Dr. Webb explained. "We're not part of their diet, but let's give it space to move on." After a few tense minutes, the shark swam away, disappearing into the deep blue. The group exhaled collectively, a mix of relief and thrill visible in their expressions. As they surfaced and climbed back onto the boat, the adrenaline slowly subsided. "That was a rare encounter," Dr. Webb said, peeling off his mask. "You all handled yourselves very well." Jake checked on each student, patting them on the back. "Everyone good?" "That was the most thrilling moment of my life," Fenrir admitted, his usual calm demeanor replaced with excitement. To see such a predator up close, yet peaceful. It challenges so many assumptions. Exactly, Jake nodded. The ocean teaches us respect. Respect for nature, for life, and for the boundaries of our understanding. The reef isn't just beautiful, it's powerful. As the boat headed back to the mainland, the students were quiet, lost in thought over what they'd experienced. Today, Earth had revealed another aspect of its beauty and its danger, further cementing its reputation as a death world in their eyes, but also deepening their appreciation for its wild, untamed nature. The group's next destination was the unforgiving landscape of the Sahara Desert, a stark contrast to the lush wetlands and vibrant coral reefs they had previously encountered. The expansive sands and relentless sun would provide a new challenge to the students, testing their understanding of Earth's diverse ecosystems. Upon arrival, Jake introduced the group to an expert in desert environments, Professor Hakim Almasi, who would guide them through the basics of desert survival. The desert teaches harsh lessons about scarcity and survival, Professor Almasi explained as they geared up with wide-brimmed hats, long sleeves, and plenty of sunscreen. Respect for the environment here isn't just philosophical, it's essential to making it through. The heat hit them like a wall as they stepped out into the open desert. The sun was a constant beating force, and the sands stretched endlessly in every direction, a golden ocean that was both beautiful and daunting. Hydration is key, Professor Almasi instructed, handing out extra water bottles. We'll need to drink regularly, even if we're not thirsty. Dehydration sneaks up on you out here. As they began their trek across the dunes, Jake pointed out various adaptations in the desert flora and fauna. See these small plants? They're called xerophytes. They've adapted to conserve water in incredibly efficient ways. The group was fascinated by the sparse but uniquely adapted life forms. Cilia, her scales shimmering slightly under the intense sun, asked, "How can these plants survive with so little water?" "It's all about adaptation," Professor Almasi answered. "They minimize water loss by having reduced leaf surfaces and waxy coatings. Some even store water in their stems or roots." As the day progressed, the temperature soared. Jake noticed Fenrir lagging slightly, his green skin darkening with the heat. "Everyone, let's take a break," he called out. They found a small shade under a large rock formation and settled down to rest. "This is nothing like the controlled environments we're used to," Fenrir admitted, accepting a water bottle from Jake. "Yeah, Earth doesn't do controlled," Jake replied with a chuckle. "But there's beauty in the challenge. Each environment teaches us something about resilience and survival." Later, as they set up camp for the night, Professor Almasi showed them how to create a makeshift shelter using their survival blankets and the natural contours of the terrain. In the desert, the temperature can drop drastically at night. Staying warm is just as important as staying cool during the day. That night, under a sky bursting with stars, the students gathered around a small, carefully managed fire. "The desert seems so desolate during the day, yet it feels entirely different at night," Zorath observed, looking up at the Milky Way sprawling above them. "It's a place of extremes," Jake agreed, adding a log to the fire. "Extreme heat, extreme cold, but also extreme beauty and silence. It makes you appreciate the small things, a shade, a cool breeze, a sip of water. These are the luxuries out here." The lesson of the Sahara was clear. Survival depended on adaptation, preparation, and respect for the environment. As they drifted to sleep, the sounds of the desert night whispered around them, a testament to the hidden vitality of this harsh landscape. The Sahara, with all its challenges, had deepened their understanding of Earth's complexities and the tenacity required to thrive on a death world. After conquering the extreme conditions of the Sahara, the next challenge for the alien students was the daunting heights of the Himalayas. Jake arranged for their group to meet with a seasoned mountaineer, Tenzin Sherpa, who would guide them through the high-altitude terrain and teach them about the unique ecosystems found at these elevations. Upon arriving in Nepal, the group was immediately struck by the stark contrast between the desert's dry expanse and the lush, rugged landscapes of the Himalayas. The air was thinner and cooler, a welcome relief after the intense heat of the Sahara. "The mountains are not forgiving," Tenzin warned as they prepared their gear for the ascent. "Altitude sickness can affect anyone, regardless of their physical condition. We must ascend slowly and acclimatize as we go." As they trekked up the narrow paths, Jake pointed out the changing vegetation zones, from dense forests at lower elevations to alpine meadows higher up. "The biodiversity here shifts dramatically as we climb," Jake explained. Each zone supports a different set of life forms, all adapted to the cold and lack of oxygen. The group paused at a vantage point, overlooking a valley with a river cutting through it like a ribbon. Humans have lived in these areas for thousands of years, Tenzin shared, pointing to a distant village. They've developed unique cultures and ways of life that are intimately connected with the mountain environment. As they moved higher, the air grew colder and the wind sharper. Zorath struggled to keep pace, his breath visible in the frigid air. "The cold is biting," he commented, his voice thin in the thin air. "It's another aspect of survival," Jake replied, adjusting his scarf. "Out here, you learn to respect the elements and prepare for rapid changes in weather." Their path soon became rocky, and ice patches made the trek increasingly hazardous. Tenzin instructed everyone on how to use their ice axes and crampons. "Grip the terrain firmly. Every step must be deliberate and secure," he cautioned. As they approached the base camp, a sudden snow flurry enveloped them, reducing visibility to a few meters. The team huddled close, relying on Tenzin's expertise and their navigational gear to find their way. Fenrir, usually unflappable, looked around with wide eyes. "I never realized how quickly conditions could change in the mountains," he admitted. "This is why the mountains are one of Earth's greatest teachers," Jake said once they reached the safety of the camp. "They remind us of our limitations and teach us about preparation and perseverance." That evening, as they warmed themselves with hot tea in the camp's mess tent, Celia reflected on the day's experiences. The diversity of Earth's environments is astonishing. From oceans and deserts to these massive mountains, each presents unique challenges. "Yes," Tenzin agreed, joining them at the table. "And each environment, in its own way, is a custodian of life. The mountains, harsh as they may seem, are home to communities of plants, animals, and humans who've found their rhythm with nature." As the night deepened and the temperatures dropped further, the group felt a profound connection to the Earth and its myriad landscapes. Tomorrow, they would descend, taking with them lessons on the resilience required to exist in one of the most beautiful, yet challenging places on the planet. After experiencing the harsh elements of Earth's natural environments, Jake decided it was time for the alien students to witness the complexity of human civilization. They traveled next to New York City, a bustling metropolis known for its towering skyscrapers and diverse population. This would be their first exposure to Earth's urban ecosystems. Upon arrival, the group was immediately overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of the city. Cars honked incessantly, crowds of people flowed down the sidewalks, and towering buildings blocked the sun, creating a labyrinth of shadowed streets. "This," Jake announced as they stood at the edge of Times Square, "is a different kind of jungle. Here, humans have created their own environment, which comes with its own set of survival rules." Threxel, his sensory appendages flickering with the overload of new stimuli, turned to Jake. "It is very vibrant. But where does nature fit into this landscape?" "Good question," Jake replied. "Let's find out." He led them on a walking tour, pointing out small patches of greenery, parks, and rooftop gardens that dotted the cityscape. These are like oases in the desert. They offer respite and a touch of nature amidst the concrete. As the group delved deeper into the city, Jake introduced them to a local community leader, Maria, who was involved in urban renewal projects. "Our work focuses on creating sustainable living spaces within the city," Maria explained. "We incorporate green technologies and try to enhance biodiversity even in these urban settings." The students listened intently as Maria discussed the challenges of maintaining these projects amidst economic pressures and urban development. The concept of urban ecology fascinated them, especially the efforts to balance human needs with environmental sustainability. Later, the group visited a police station where they learned about another aspect of urban survival: security. The station's commander spoke about the various challenges they faced, from dealing with petty crimes to ensuring public safety during major events. "Similar to how you must be aware of predators in the wild, in the city, you must be aware of different kinds of dangers," Jake explained as they left the station. The group was quiet, absorbing the complexities of urban life. Their next stop was a local market, where the cultural diversity of the city was on full display. Stalls brimming with foods from around the world, vibrant fabrics, and diverse languages filled the air. "Each of these vendors represents a thread in the fabric of this city," Jake said. "Each one has a story of how they or their ancestors came to be here, much like the plants and animals we've seen adapting to their environments." As evening approached, they witnessed a heated argument between two motorists, which escalated until a police officer intervened. The incident sparked a discussion about conflict and cooperation within densely populated areas. Conflicts here can be verbal, legal, or sometimes physical, but they're a part of the human ecosystem, Jake noted. How we handle these conflicts, how we negotiate space and resources, it's all part of urban survival. As the day ended, the group gathered in a quiet park, reflecting on their day in the urban jungle. Zorath, thoughtful, spoke up. It's overwhelming, yet there's a rhythm to it, a method to the madness. It's not just about survival, it's about coexistence. Jake nodded. Exactly. Living in a city like this teaches you resilience, but also compassion and cooperation. It's about finding balance in chaos. That night, back at their hotel, the students journaled about their experiences, each drawing parallels between the natural world and the human-made one, realizing that survival skills were universal, albeit adapted to different environments. After their exploration of urban complexities, Jake decided it was crucial for the alien students to understand another challenging aspect of human nature: conflict. Despite initial reservations, he chose to take them to a region recently stabilized after years of conflict. It was a risky move, but he believed that witnessing the aftermath and ongoing peace efforts would provide a profound learning experience. Arriving in a small, recovering town in Eastern Europe, the group was met by a local NGO worker, Anna, who specialized in conflict resolution and community rebuilding. This area has seen significant turmoil, but it's also a place of strong community bonds and resilience, Anna explained, guiding them through streets lined with buildings scarred by the conflict. As they walked, Anna pointed out various reconstruction projects. See these buildings? Local and international efforts are helping restore them. But it's not just about rebuilding structures, it's about healing communities. The group visited a local school where children of various backgrounds played together. The school principal, Mr. Petrov, spoke about the importance of education in fostering understanding and peace. Teaching these kids about respect, cooperation, and diversity is essential for preventing future conflicts, he told them. Threxel, deeply moved by the children's laughter and resilience, asked, "How do you teach such young minds about peace in a place with a history of violence?" "It's about showing them alternatives," Mr. Petrov responded, "giving them space to interact, learn from each other, and build friendships across divides. It's challenging, but crucial." Later, the group sat down with a few local leaders and former combatants who shared their experiences. One of them, a former soldier named Ivan, discussed his journey from soldier to peace advocate. "I once held a gun with the belief that I was protecting my home. Now, I believe true protection comes from building bridges, not barriers," Ivan shared. Jake used this moment to draw a parallel for his students. Just as we've seen animals adapt to their environments, humans adapt to social and political climates. Sometimes those adaptations lead to conflict, but they can also lead to peace and cooperation. The discussion was a somber one, with students asking thoughtful questions about the causes of conflicts and the processes of reconciliation. As they left the meeting, Fenril looked back at the group, his expression thoughtful. "It's complex," he remarked. "How the same species capable of such conflict is also capable of profound compassion and rebuilding." As they prepared to leave the town, the group was unexpectedly caught in a peaceful but passionate demonstration. The locals were advocating for more support from the government. Jake and the students watched as chants filled the air, banners waved, and speeches called for unity and progress. "Such gatherings," Anna explained, "are part of our democratic process. They're a way for people to express their needs and hopes. It's another form of survival, ensuring that voices are heard and respected." That night, back in their lodgings, Jake held a debriefing session. "Today, you saw the complexities of human nature. Just like the natural environments we've studied, human societies have their ecosystems. They can be just as delicate, just as prone to disturbances, and just as capable of regeneration." The students nodded, each processing the day's lessons in their own way. They had seen Earth's capacity for conflict, but also its profound potential for peace and recovery. This experience, challenging and intense, had given them a deeper understanding of humanity's place on the planet, a species continually adapting not just to the physical world, but to the moral and social landscapes they create. As the alien students prepared for their departure from Earth, their final day was spent at a quiet retreat outside the bustling city, where they had first encountered the human urban environment. Here, surrounded by serene landscapes and the soft murmur of a nearby stream, they gathered with Jake and their academic advisor, Threxel, to reflect on their intense and enlightening journey across Earth's diverse and often harsh environments. Threxel opened the discussion, his tone contemplative. Our time on Earth has been an invaluable learning experience. We've seen your planet's beauties and dangers, its complexities and contradictions. We came seeking knowledge about a death world, but we leave with a deeper understanding of not just the planet, but its dominant species, humans. Jake listened, nodding appreciatively. It's been a privilege to show you all aspects of my world, from the natural wonders of the Amazon and the Sahara to the great heights of the Himalayas and the depths of human conflict and cooperation in the urban and post-conflict settings. Each student shared their personal insights. Fenril, who had been particularly moved by the diversity of life forms and human cultures, spoke up. I've learned that adaptability isn't just a survival strategy for non-human life. Humans adapt their environments to extremes, sometimes to their detriment, but often with remarkable ingenuity and resilience. Cilia, who had initially been apprehensive about the dangers of Earth, reflected on her growth. I was frightened by the harshness of your environments, but now I see how these challenges have shaped strong, compassionate individuals and communities. The balance you maintain between survival and preservation is compelling. Zorath, the group's unofficial scribe, had meticulously documented each visit. My reports will highlight Earth's dual nature, its capacity for danger, and its unparalleled beauty. Our people will be fascinated by how closely intertwined life and death are on this planet. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the tranquil scene, Jake took a moment to impart a final thought. This planet, with all its imperfections and challenges, is a testament to the life it supports. Each system, each creature, and every human has adapted to make the most of what Earth offers, sometimes taking too much, but often giving back a great deal. Threxel nodded, his eyes reflecting the fading light. This visit will change our perspective on not only how we view death worlds, but also how we approach the study of life and culture in the universe. Earth is a prime example of survival against the odds, but also of thriving amidst adversity. As the group packed up to leave, emotional farewells were exchanged. Jake shook hands with each student, feeling a mix of pride and sadness. Remember what you've learned here, and use it to inform and inspire others. With their spacecraft waiting, the students boarded, turning back for a final wave. As the engines began to hum, signaling their imminent departure, Jake stood back, his mission accomplished. He had not only educated these future leaders about Earth's dangers, but had also shown them the beauty of its resilience and the depth of its spirit. Watching the spacecraft lift off, Jake felt a profound connection to everything he had shared. Earth, with all its deadly labels, was indeed a place of immense learning and growth. He hoped the lessons carried by the students would resonate across galaxies, spreading a message of respect and understanding for all life forms, wherever they may exist.